But we begin with the 2016 presidential race and new questions about potential Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. Welcome to Happening Now, everybody. I'm Jenna Lee.
And I'm John Scott. Mrs. Clinton expected to announce a White House run within the next couple of weeks. She's been quietly beefing up her campaign staff in advance of her expected presidential bid. Most Democrats are united in the belief that she is the best candidate, but the jury is out on whether she is a good candidate. New York Magazine's running an article this week with the headline, "Is Hillary Clinton any good at running for president, and how much does it matter anyway?" Let's talk about it now with Chris Wallace, the anchor of Fox News Sunday. Interesting read in New York Magazine, but it emphasizes the fact that some Democrats, especially after the email scandal began, some Democrats are expressing reservations that she might be a little rusty or maybe not such a talented campaigner anyway.
Well, exactly. And I think that the news conference that she held at the UN, the so-called Guernica news conference, when you had that horrible painting, it's a painting of war and destruction behind her at the UN, a Picasso painting, John, it was kind of a symbol of how that went off the tracks. I mean, she didn't do terribly, but she seemed very unhappy to be there, didn't make much eye contact with the reporters talking to her, and generally handled it as if it was the uncomfortable situation it was, as opposed to somehow being able to rise above it. And you know, it does raise questions. Of course, we saw this with the book rollout last year when she was asked by Diane Sawyer about all the money that she and the president make from speeches and various other endeavors, and she talked about the fact that they left the White House dead broke, well, maybe for about 10 minutes until she got a multi-million-dollar book advance for her autobiography. So, yeah, I mean, there are some real questions about her skills, and if she does run largely unopposed in the Democratic primary, she's not going to go through that real toughening process that you do when you are doing a lot of interviews with reporters, when you're facing other people in debates, and you have the kind of cut and thrust, even if you're not on the same stage, when you're campaigning against somebody else and they're taking shots at you.
Here's part of what that New York Magazine piece wrote, describing specifically that Guernica moment that you were talking about. The glee and regret among Republicans and Democrats have been most pronounced over the disastrous press conference Clinton held at the United Nations to try to put the matter of her emails to rest, which served to remind them of something many had forgotten, what an abominable candidate she can be. Now, this time we understand her staff is going to try to put her in more intimate settings, give her more give and take opportunities with, ordinary Americans, make it less of a stadium-centric kind of campaign. Is it going to work? Is it going to help?
Well, I'm reminded of what happened back in 2000 when they decided that Al Gore, the Democratic consultant, said, there are, frankly, dumb decisions made by both parties, that Al Gore's problem was he was too stiff, he wasn't human enough, and you may remember they got a consultant who had him in earth tones. He was wearing lots of browns and greens and open neck shirts. Karl Rove had a very interesting column today in the Wall Street Journal, in which he said the big problem isn't her manner, it's does she have a rationale? Does she have a purpose as to why she is running for president, other than the fact that it's her turn and that she's entitled to it, and how is she going to communicate that? And I'm not sure at this point, other than the fact that she's the favorite for it. She lost to Bill Clinton last time, maybe the woman thing, but in terms of what she's going to do for us, the American people, why she's running and what's the cause that's driving her, I think you'd be a little hard-pressed to say right now what it is.
Senator Lincoln Chafee of Rhode Island announced this morning that he's looking at making a run for the Democratic nomination. Is that, I don't know, is that a signal perhaps that some Democrats think she can be beaten, that she's vulnerable?
Well, with all due respect to Lincoln Chafee, and he's a distinguished public servant, I'm not sure he's the one who's going to do it. I'm not sure Martin O'Malley is, or Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont. All of them seem kind of long shots if they were to run against her. The people you'd take more seriously would be Vice President Biden or Elizabeth Warren. But at least at this moment, it doesn't appear that either of them is going to run. And yes, she may have some token opposition, but nobody that's going to make her have to kind of struggle and reach and grow as a candidate in order to beat them.
Speaking of opposition, one of your Sunday morning competitors is throwing in the towel. A big announcement from longtime CBS News Face the Nation moderator Bob Schieffer. The veteran correspondent says he will retire this summer at the age of 78. Your thoughts, Chris?
Well, I was going to say throwing in the towel. I think it's a little better than that. I mean, 78. Of course, my father would say he's a whippersnapper. What's he doing thinking of quitting at 78? My father was still working at 88. Bob is an awfully nice man. He's a solid reporter, a real gentleman. He's had a very distinguished career at CBS. He certainly has earned his retirement many years ago. Here's the really depressing thing. I figured out when I saw his announcement, John, that will make me the dean of the Sunday morning talk show hosts, because I, with my 11 years, will now have been hosting one of these Sunday talk shows longer than any of the other guys, and whoever replaces Bob on Face the Nation. And I just want to say I will wear my position as dean of Sunday talk shows very proudly. I will convene a meeting of the other anchors, and we will discuss a new secret handshake.
That sounds great. Well, you are the one they all aspire to be. Chris Wallace from Fox News Sunday. Chris, thank you.
Well, thank you for that, John.
You bet. Don't miss Chris on Fox News Sunday this weekend. He will have an exclusive interview with former Massachusetts governor and 2012 Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney. You don't want to miss that. The latest on how the 2016 race for the White House is shaping up. You can watch that right here on Fox News Channel 2 and 6 p.m. Eastern, or check your local listings for when it airs on the big Fox network.